But then one wonders, how intrusive should employers now be? Like, should we ask Brian every day, Brian, do you have HIV? You know,
Yes.
how the hell can we, how can the hell can we even know about those private matters? Do you have STD, Brian?
Yes.
And if
Exactly.
you do, where did you get it? How,
Yeah.
Welcome again to the New Normal Business Show, and this is presented by SERVIO Technologies, co-presented by Bitstop Network Services Data Center and MB Tech News. So I'll now introduce our speakers who's going to discuss our topic today, which is health monitoring in organizations. I'd like to welcome our business technology coach and data analytics wizard. Welcome, Wilson. Welcome, Joey.
Thank you, Brian. Good
Thank you,
afternoon,
Brian.
guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wilson, how are things in Singapore?
Let me look out my window. It's bright and sunny. How are things in the Philippines?
It's a bit overcast right now. As I look out my window here in Eastwood City, mukhang dumadami na yung mga kotse sa labas.
Oh no.
It's
So
becoming more crowded out there than before.
so it's a nice segue into this week's topic. As businesses ramp up, I hear there's a added regulation imposed by the government.
Well, yeah. So last week we were talking about House Bill 6623, di ba? The
Yep.
new normal act for public and workplaces. And meron talagang meron talagang section doon. I read an article that said that there was a section there about mandating the monitoring of the health of your employees.
Under HB 6623.
Yes, did you hear about that also?
So I went ahead and I listened to I heard it from you, and I went ahead and looked at HB 6623, and surprisingly I couldn't find the provision. So it
Well,
was in PDF, so I had it converted to Word so I could search for it. There was no mention in the actual, well, in the version that we had, HB 6623. So maybe it could be something else?
so let's just put it on the record there. The fact of the matter is, based on your review of HB 6623, wala naman nakalagay doon sa bill na yon about
Na requirement
requirement to monitor the health of employees
on a daily basis.
on a daily basis. But maybe that requirement is coming from somewhere else. Did you do any research to see maybe kung saan nanggaling yun?
Well, ako hindi. Pero yung dalawang staff ko, Mylene Ferrer ng Farm Out at si Monica ng Bitstop, I asked them to talk to the local DOLE. So, yeah, it so happens that there is a interim guideline issued by the DTI and DOLE. So,
Oh,
in
yan.
that document,
Ito
oo,
yung DOLE guidelines. Okay.
ang pagkakaalam ng local DOLE sa Dagupan is only the visitor reporting requirement.
An article here from
Yeah.
the dole.gov.ph, and the guidelines that you are referring to was actually published on May 1st. So baka naman bago masyado. Masyado bang
Ah.
bago?
Masyado tayong advance, Joey.
Yes.
Masyado tayong advance.
Now, were you able to find out kung ano talaga, according to DOLE, ano ba talaga dapat ang reportorial requirements for
So-
employers?
So, Brian, if you are flashing the slide right now, you can see the sample form nung workforce accident and something form that you're seeing now. That is supposed to be submitted monthly to DOLE. So, hindi naman siya dati yung because before this, some of my friends shared with me another form where there is a daily check-in of symptoms. So
Mhm.
apparently that one is not the one required. So this is the one that's required right now.
Pero yung laman ng daily symptoms, parang isn't that what you have to now compile and collate to be able to file and fill out the monthly report?
So if I read it correctly, the form is the one you submit on a monthly basis. Hindi collation. And
Okay.
copy furnish dapat si DOH.
So ang tanong ko dun is, ano yung relationship nung kinokolekta on a daily basis, the daily accident illness report, and this monthly report? Anong connection nila?
Wala nang aggregation. You submit whatever you have each month. So if you had 10 employees that got sick, so you have 10 forms, and my understanding of the requirement is you submit the 10 forms. It's not a monthly aggregation. I had 10. It's one pager. No, it's a copy, because the forms are very specific, as you can see from the slide.
So,
And it's not something that's aggregated. Talagang very specific.
What specifically, let's take a look at the form, and what specifically is the data that they're asking for reporting? Ano ba mga hinihingi?
It says employer's work accident illness report. Yan yung Y-year. Work accident illness report. So basic information like, this is a ton of 42 forms, 42 fields.
Fields,
Yeah.
okay.
Describing the accident or the illness, the nature and extent of injury, the cause of the accident or illness, preventive measures, any machineries and tools, materials and equipments involved. And then somebody has to certify it. And there is an investigating officer.
So I'm particularly interested in the fact that they're asking for illness information. So I assume that illness would be things like not just your usual flu, or maybe your cough, respiratory, but maybe even other illnesses. Like, for example, let me ask you this: is it required, for example, that if a employee is found to be HIV positive, that would be an illness which needs to be reported on this form, Wilson? Because that is an illness, right?
Yeah, I think they were aiming this at accidents and the COVID as an illness.
Yes.
So I think they were referring to COVID itself. But you have a point. If it's illness and we have to report it, then we have to report it no later than the 20th day of each month. But then one wonders, how intrusive should employers now be? Like, should we ask Brian every day, Brian, do you have HIV?
Yes.
How the hell can we? How the hell can we even know about those private matters? Do you have STD, Brian?
Yes, exactly.
And if you do, where did you get it?
Yeah. Ang problema dito, I think once we start talking about the health conditions of an employee and illnesses and so forth, we kind of start beyond COVID. And COVID even by itself is already, shall we say, a sensitive issue.
Yeah.
A lot of people now do not want others to know that they are positive.
Right.
It's not public information, supposedly. It's private information. So when we talk about personal health conditions, this is supposed to be protected by our Data Privacy Act, diba? This is private. So as it is written by the National Privacy Commission in the Data Privacy Act, health information is protected. It is not cannot be disclosed without the consent of the person. So ang problema dito ngayon, we're asking employers to collect this information, report it to the DOLE, and then pag non-compliant, that's supposed to be a bad thing, that you can be penalized. Pero when there is non-compliance, who's at fault? What if the employee does not want to disclose
Okay.
because it's private.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you say to that, Wilson?
Well, you just raised the issues of why health data is so difficult for employers to collect. And if you think about it, why saddle employers with an additional requirement? No, can the DOH and the DOLE not communicate among themselves? Because
Yeah.
I would think that there's what they call the BERTs, the Barangay Health something, that's
Mhm.
collecting this information on the barangay level. Why don't they do that as part of the job? Why, accident, I can understand accidents. We have to report it. But when you include illness, you're wading into dangerous territory. Who's
Yeah.
Does it
Well,
mean
ito
the
nga,
DO?
nakalagay nga dun sa guidelines that the information being collected is based on the standards that have been set by the DOH. So nag-uusap nga naman. But the problem is the data collection is not consistent. Um, why
I
should
think
the employers be the ones to collect this data? As you said, why should the employers be the ones to collect this data and submit it? Kung talagang kailangan itong data na to, isn't there some way maybe that they can collect it some other way? Like you said, sa barangay, sa health center, let them collect it there. But now what's happening is that employers, business owners are being saddled with this additional uh,
requirement.
requirement, which costs money to do. It costs
Not
time.
only not only that, by complying, as you correctly pointed out, by complying with the requirements of DOLE, we as employers are now opening ourselves up to potential liability from the Data Protection Act. So not
Exactly.
only because we file this information in our offices, any breach from our offices, mananagot tayo. And then it's collected at the DOLE, and then a copy is furnished at the DOH. So if one of those are also breached, we find ourselves liable also, right?
And
So
I think the potential for breach is quite large because the data is being moved, the data is being transferred and moved from one set of hands to another, and as soon as you start doing that, the possibility of breach of the data becomes higher.
Comelec, Comelec. uh, okay, okay. And hindi naman sa pag I think the DOLE should have done a better job at thinking this through. And it even shows in the look at the form. It even shows a lack of planning in the form. The form asks for 42 na essentially fill in the blanks,
Mm.
right? So how do you ensure uniformity in the data?
Yep.
Like yung address, ilalagay mo lang ba dyan city o province or exact, this is going to be hard to input from a data point of view.
Yeah, you know what? It's sort of, Wilson, it reminds me of those little tiny pieces of paper that they require us to fill out over in the immigration sa airport that you can't.
Immigration forms.
Yeah, the immigration, it makes you wonder what the heck do they do with this thing, because you can fill it up any way you want. And the uniformity of data definitely is not being enforced there. So it makes you wonder, we're filling out this WAIR, we're filling out these different forms, but
Uh-huh.
the truth is, it's not electronic, it's not digital. So this is going to end up in a filing cabinet somewhere, or a box in the corner of a room somewhere, forever to be forgotten. Sayang na yung panahon natin.
Sayang ang effort, and it doesn't seem like it's going, like you said, looking at the form, the way the form is designed, it doesn't look like it's going to be entered digitally. And so if it's not entered digitally, I don't think they're even going to apply data analytics on this data set. And so
Exactly.
what's the benefit of this one? So like the OLE, if you're asking employers to comply with this, there's a cost.
Yes.
Unless you can show the benefit outweighs the cost, wag pa natin gagawin ito.
Well, I would suspect that based on what we're seeing here, the compliance rate probably will be quite low, wouldn't you say? And if
Um,
compliance rate is low, no matter even if it was digital, if it was digitized,
mhm.
compliance rate is low, then a low compliance to data submission is just about as bad as no data at all,
Yeah. So
right? So maybe that this is a good opportunity for us to look at what should be, the possibilities of what should be. So we're talking about, in this case, collecting data which could, well, not could potentially, but is supposed to be protected by our Data Privacy Act. So there's a privacy issue, but the other issue here is technology in nature. The other issue here is how can we possibly collect this data in a way that not only protects privacy, but also makes it usable data, usable information. Instead of just being put on a piece of paper only to be put in the corner of a room somewhere, forever to be forgotten,
yeah.
if it is if it's submitted and collated as digital data, we can analyze it, we can do things with it that you cannot do with
So
physical
yeah. So
data.
from our point of view, every time you transfer paper into digital form, you introduce what we call margin. We introduce errors into the data. It would
Yes,
be better to capture it digitally in the first place. So, like, I would think that an easy way for our listeners who are employers by right, an easy way for them to do this is to set up a Google form, right?
mhm,
And then just give your investigating officer a tablet, an iPad, and go and just key it in. That way, the data is more pristine and it's
yep,
more normalized, because in the Google form you can specify, oh, if it's a birthday, this is the format of the birthday. If it's an address, you can further split it down into like street address, city address, province, zip code,
barangay.
barangay level. Yeah. So,
Well,
and
yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Technology is available. It doesn't even have to cost. You
yeah.
talk about Google Forms. I don't know how many of our listeners or our viewers are familiar, but Google Forms is a data collection technology available online for free.
Yeah.
It's totally free. There is no cost associated. And I'm sure many of you have already tried this, but just simply converting that manual or that paper form that we showed earlier, converting that and replacing it with a Google form already solves a lot of the data collection headaches
Mm-hmm.
that you could think of. Pero, Wilson, that's sort of the quick and dirty, do-it-yourself way to address it. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit, the good news is napakaraming kumpanya, ng IT companies, napakaraming technology companies that have come out with different technology solutions to solve just this kind of a problem. And yeah, there's actually I'm going to show you here on this link if you want to take a look at it. There's a link here to an article online that lists some of these apps, some of these technologies that you might consider using, especially kung marami kayo. I mean, Google Forms are
Yeah.
great, yes, but when you start having hundreds, if not thousands of employees, it still becomes tedious. Google Forms is not meant for that many submissions. But in this article, which we'll go through now, no, there's several available solutions, and because this particular problem is in the area of employees, it's normally considered an HR problem. Di siyempre, yung mga kumpanyang gumawa nito are companies who are in the what they call human capital management or HRIS technology space. No, so eto una, this one right here, this first one, Ceridian, yan, Ceridian.
Mm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
Ceridian's been around for a long time. They actually are an HCM software specialist. Okay, and what
Uh-huh.
they've done is they've as part of their suite, they've come up with a business continuity tool that allows their managers to take a comprehensive look at where and how their people are distributed to allow them to monitor their health and also whatever hazardous environments they might be in. So
So
actually,
comprehensive siya. Yeah.
this particular app was out even before, especially for
COVID.
companies that were in before COVID.
Ah,
BC meron na siya. It was out because for companies that had employees working in hazardous environments like
mm,
nuclear power plants, like maybe radioactive or maybe electromagnetic exposure or chemical exposure. But now they've been able to reposition it so that Ceridian's application cannot be used to track people in terms of COVID infection. So yun ang una na nandito sa article na to. Okay? The other one is more geared towards medical frontliners and those who are in what we call essential services. It's called safety tech, right there, safety tech.
yep.
Okay, safety tech helps managers keep track of the health of their personnel. So basically, what it does is a self-assessment tool. Okay, so every morning they suggest that these workers who are frontliners or essential workers that have to report for work before they leave home, that they take an assessment, and that assessment will help determine whether maybe they might have certain symptoms like difficulty breathing, chest pain,
But
and that kind of
yeah, yeah. But
cough.
hang on, Joey. Are these free?
Yes, actually, yung Ceridian at saka Safety Tech, by themselves, yes, they're free, but they only work in conjunction with the software that they are part of, which is not free. So it's a free add-on to a software that you must
That you
own,
have to buy.
that you
Yeah.
have to buy. So hindi siya libre. So lahat to actually, most of these are not free. So another one, for example, is a company called Net Health.
Mm-hmm.
They have a similar type of application that it actually tracks your exposure. Okay, so yung kanilang application is a COVID-19 app that tracks your exposure to different infected, potentially infected people. Again, it is meant for people who are exposing themselves and who have been out. Parang ano eh, very very similar yan dun sa Novid in that it can keep track of how long you've been
Maximum
exposed to certain
exposures.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, this is not a free app. This is actually part of the Net Health group of applications. It's a free add-on.
Yeah.
Yung susunod, etong gawa ng Appian. Okay, so those of you who are in IT, you probably have heard of Appian. Appian is a
Platform.
development tool. They're a development tool maker. They make platform. They are a platform for developing apps. And what they have done is they have taken a template. They've created a code template specifically made for people who want to generate a COVID-19 response management app. So again, parang ginawa nila, they already made siguro 80% of what you need for a COVID-19 management app, and then bahala ka ng tapusin, right? So again, this one is free. I mean, Appian, there's a free version of it. If you take the template and create your app, then okay ka na. Okay. The next one is called Pega. Okay, Pega is
May
a bit
dashboard.
different. Yeah, it's basically a dashboard. It gives you a view of your entire company's operations. Very good if you have lots of employees everywhere. The data is regularly updated. I mean, constantly updated, so that you can assess risk. Employees are able to submit symptoms in real time. Tapos papakita sa'yo sa dashboard kung nasaan yung merong mga potential infection or potential symptoms of infection. Okay, that's Pega. And again, this is meant for companies na medyo malaki, and it's not free. It's an
Yeah.
add-on to an application which is not free. Okay. The last one I was going to talk about is this program called Kokomo. Now, Kokomo is a bit different in that it does the stuff that we talked about earlier, collecting health information, symptoms, and so forth. But what it does is it applies AI,
Mm.
applies artificial intelligence on this data to gauge the probability that you have potential cases in clusters, so that then it can suggest proactive intervention.
Yeah.
Kumbaga
Okay.
sabi, yung office niyan, mukhang maraming symptoms na ganito. You better make an intervention in that particular office because there's a high likelihood
Mhm.
that there's a cluster there, right? So yun ang mga
So,
yun ang mga nakita natin sa article to, but these are all foreign.
yeah, yeah.
All foreign.
Tangkilikin ang sariling atin. And
Yeah.
the good news is in the Philippines, several apps are already out there.
Yes.
And I've had the privilege of interviewing the owners or developers of Stay Safe, Clear, and Curve. And then there's this new one that I was working with over the weekend. They're still in beta. It's called projectfort.com. Yeah.
So maybe we can dissect a little bit
Hmm.
how they are similar, how they're different from each other. So yung clear, I'm sorry, I think yung parang pinakanauna yung staysafe.ph, right? So maybe
Well,
you can talk a
no,
bit about what that's
yeah,
about.
staysafe.ph, mas nauna siyang in-endorse ng IATF as a contact tracing app and a health monitoring app. But I do know na sila Sir Jonathan sa Clear ang nauna with a completed product.
Okay.
Mo- both of them collect information like medical record na nga eh. And then both of them also ask the employees every day, how are you feeling? And if you feel better, okay. If you don't feel good, then it branches off into asking you for specific symptoms. And then they also have a rule set running behind them. I think kasama rin ang curve dito. They have a rule set, decision set to identify whether or not you are likely to be infected with COVID
Yeah.
based on the
Parang,
symptoms that you
so parang
enter.
gumagawa siya ng self-assessment. Based on your
Correct.
symptoms,
Yes.
you can assess whether meron ng bagong term ngayon, di ba? It's no longer PUI. It's now you're either a suspect or you're probable or you're confirmed. Iba na yung kanilang terminology ngayon. But basically, all of these locally made apps, they have this ability to do a self-assessment and then give you the result of that assessment. I think all of them also, or most of them are also trying to do contact tracing. Tama ba? They also try
Stay
to do
Safe
that.
and Clear has contact tracing properties in the sense that sorry about that. Where was I? So both of them uses Bluetooth to do
So
proximity sensors.
you're talking about stay safe and clear, right? They do
Yes,
contact tracing. Okay.
yes. But then for Curve and Project 4, they're more for daily health monitoring. So
Yeah.
mas concentrated yung dalawa, the last two there.
Well, I will make a personal plug when it comes to contact tracing, and I think you know my opinion on the matter. I think there's only one really good contact tracing in the whole wide world that I would personally endorse, and that's Novid
Yeah.
platform.
I also
Novid.
had the privilege of interviewing the founder. So technologically, it's better than the Philippine-made ones because it uses ultrasound in addition to Bluetooth to do the detection, the proximity sensing. So wala yan doon sa mga local apps.
Yeah. And of course, the one thing I really like about it compared to maybe any of the other contact tracing app is that it is completely anonymous. There
Yep.
does not you are not required to submit any personally identifying data, your phone number, your address, your email address. It's totally self-contained, right? And even with that anonymity, if somebody you've been in contact with or close proximity to finds out that they're infected and positive, when they turn on their alarm, you will still be notified, and it will tell you where that exposure may have happened.
No, for Novid, let me correct this. Novid does not collect GPS data. So they may not tell you where, and they won't even tell you who infected you. So they protect the original, the patient zero.
Yeah,
Uh,
they tell you you've been exposed, but they won't tell you who it was. But they will
yes.
tell you the time. You'll tell you the time when that exposure happened.
Yeah.
Right.
And one thing also, going back to Novid, they recently implemented the audible alarm. So if Joey Gorango is has been sensed to be near Brian Javier for close to 15 minutes, it will trigger the alarm, warning both of you to stay farther apart.
Yep. So yeah, that's my that's the one, I guess, app that I will wholeheartedly endorse. It's called novid.org. Please use it. I use it. I've had my whole family use it. Of course, uh, it's only as good as how many people use it, which is
Correct.
quite true with all of these apps. No, if nobody uses them, bali wala lang. So we encourage not just the uh, general public, but especially the employers to promote the use of these apps so that you can
So,
get the
so
data that you need.
yeah. So full disclosure, people might think that Joey, you and I have a financial interest in Novid. We have no financial interest in Novid. We just like the technology. And yes, in our company, we do use Novid for our own use.
Yeah,
Yeah. But then, having said that, any contact tracing is better than no technological-based contact tracing. So,
exactly.
so that's
Just
one of
like
the
just like any data collection for purposes of policy making is better than no data collection. But if you're going to collect data, please use technology, not
yeah.
paper and pencil. Okay? So I'd like to make one more disclosure. Uh, Wilson, since we talk about neither one of us has a financial interest or any kind of personal interest in Novit, we just like the technology. I have to disclose that meron akong kinalaman sa Curve. Curve is
Ako wala.
actually,
Ako wala akong
Wilson
kinalaman
wala.
sa
Si
curve.
Wilson wala, okay?
Sa
But
Project
Curve,
Fort, wala rin. Everything that
yes,
we do, we will tell you naman eh. We will
yes.
be fully disclosing
That's
the
why
finance.
I'm disclosing. Though Curve is actually an app produced by one of the companies that I'm coaching, SERVIO Technologies. So um, there's two shamelessly plug Curve. There's two things I'd like everybody to know about Curve. Number one, unlike maybe the other apps, it too is totally anonymous. Just like Novid, it does not require the submission of any personally identifying data. You are not required to submit your phone number, your email address, or anything that could personally identify you. All we
I,
require
uh,
is the app, is a username which you can make up, your age, your gender, and your nationality.
yeah.
Okay, so
I
that's
tried it.
it.
Yeah, I'm one of
Yeah,
the earlier beta users. And one thing I like is the concept of household.
yes.
Yeah,
So all
so
we, in terms of identifying the even the household, all we ask for is that you identify the barangay you're in,
yeah.
because it's important to be able to collect the data in the barangay. So the idea of a household is it's important to know sino yung kasama sa bahay, right? So the important thing is that it is completely anonymous, which means that you don't give up your privacy for that. Okay. But the other thing is that unlike the other apps that are geared to go from bottom up, meaning trying to get the public to use it, with Curve, what we're trying to do is top down. We are promoting it to the company, to the LGUs, to start at that level and use it as a data collection tool for their constituents. What we like to say is that Curve allows you to monitor the health status of the people that you care about. So it's a top-down approach as opposed to a bottom-up. Anyway, anybody who's interested, I will tell you later on how you can get Curve, but that's my full disclosure. I am behind, I have an interest in Curve. It's free. We don't make any money off of it, okay? But it is made by our company. There you
Right.
go. So,
Yep.
disclose na
Yep.
ako, ha?
So we still have
Oh,
10 more minutes to go.
well, I was going to ask you. So these are technologies available today to be
Uh-huh.
able to collect health information, again, for policy making and for preventive action. We also talked about Novid and other contact based, all technology based. But these are technologies today, Wilson. Let's kind of look a little bit. You're in Singapore. You guys are on the leading edge there. What other technologies that we can think of that is just on the horizon in the near future? What
So
other technologies might be able to help in this area?
Singapore, as you know, is one of the leading countries that came out with technology-based solutions like contact tracing using Bluetooth on your cell phones, right?
Right.
I think they found some of the shortcomings of using Bluetooth technology. That's why now when we go into groceries and supermarkets, in addition to having the Bluetooth running on our phones, we need to check in. So ito na yung mga safe access, safe entry. And funny enough, just today, they just announced a new cluster in Jurong, one of the supermarkets. So
Oh.
apparently they already anticipated ahead of time that people congregate in supermarkets. So it's a good idea to have a record of where you've been to. So by scanning the QR code, you now tell the government that you've been here. So that if in the future they identify that as a cluster, you can be one of the very first that they can inform to isolate or quarantine yourself.
Well, there's another near future technology which I just recently read about, which I'm quite excited. You probably have heard of the use of dogs to
Yeah,
detect
sniffer.
people who have.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've already proven, this is a fact now, that dogs can actually detect whether somebody has cancer. Right? They can
Mhm.
detect the molecules in the air that the cancer cells give off. Now they're trying to train dogs. I believe this is being done in Israel. They're trying to train dogs to detect whether somebody has the COVID virus. And if that's really possible for a dog to do that because of being able to find it in the molecules in the air, how far are we from maybe some other remote sensing device that is being driven by AI to be able to do the same? So maybe in the near future, you could actually point a device at somebody within 6 feet, and by simply remote sampling the molecules around them, might be able to detect somebody
Yeah.
with COVID. Diba?
That's an interesting idea. Here's another one, a bit icky, but still interesting, right? So you know that the virus shows up in fecal matter,
Yeah.
right? Right? So you know where I'm going with this.
I don't know if I want to go there, but go ahead.
So so it is quite possible for scientists to keep on measuring the sewer system because sewer systems are very identifiable, right? So you now know, let's say in your condo, you don't have to test everyone. You just test the sewer. So if you test the sewer and you find in the fecal matter the virus, then you know somebody in the condominium is infected.
So you're suggesting that we apply this remote sensing technology to the sewage systems of buildings to at least know whether there's something there,
Yeah.
right?
hmm
Okay.
So they've used that for like detecting barbiturates, illegal drug usage, So
I
this is
guess
just another method.
another method, and that's true. Typically when people want to get rid of stuff, they get rid of it down the toilet, and so now this can actually be used to detect that stuff.
And here's the thing, it is far cheaper to test the sewers rather than to test 100,000 residents of a barangay.
Right.
Or let's say 10,000 residents. You just test the sewer. If the sewer contains that virus, you quarantine that entire barangay.
Okay. With that, though, I'd like to wrap this up. I think because we're running out of time, correct?
hmm
Maybe just to wrap up, the use of technology in collecting health data among our organizations is really the only way to go. I
Yeah,
mean, what
contact
we're
tracing.
saying is that whether you use one of these not free applications that we talked about that are provided by foreign vendors, or one of the free ones available locally. Um, the important thing is that if you're going to collect data, do it digitally. And
Yeah.
even if it means, like the example you gave, Google Forms is free.
Yeah.
You can collect data that way. It's already going to be infinitely better than filling out a paper form.
And using Google Form, you can match it to the output required by the DOLE. So this is one thing that we've been asking all the local developers, Stay Safe, Clear, Curve, Project Fort. If we use your application, at the end of the month, when we have to file the report to DOLE, is there a simple button that we click and out comes the required reports? Or are you saying we need to then re-enter it into a format? So like, there's no savings that way.
So,
So Joey, I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Another data entry naman.
So
Another
I'm putting
room
you
for
on the
error.
spot right now, Curve.
Well,
Do you
I'm
have a roadmap that will come up with such a report? Because I asked that from Project Fort, and they said yes, it's in their roadmap.
So yes, I will tell you right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for the insight. And
Uh-huh.
as a good public servant, I will commit that that particular feature will be coming out in Curve as well.
So you see, if Project Fort people are listening into the webcast, pabilisan kayong dalawa nila Joey.
But it's all for the good of the country. It's
Yeah.
all for the good of our countrymen. Because
All the local applications that I've seen are all free. But then sa free, you have to understand it's a freemium model. You pay for it somehow in the
if you're
future.
not if you are not paying for a product,
You are
you
the
are
product.
the product.
Yeah.